Another update from this past weekend, huge recruiting weekend at the University of Georgia. Um, Josh Newberg and Steve Wiltfong, two national recruiting analysts, they discussed a little bit about the big time visits that Georgia had this weekend. I think the first and foremost, it's all about Jared Curtis. I mean, that guy, I don't remember the last time Georgia was really in like the 5-star quarterback sweepstakes, if you will. Like it seemed like for a while there, Georgia was signing a 5-star quarterback every year, whether it was Eason and then Fromm and then Justin Fields. And then I feel like am I forgetting someone else? JT Daniels was a former 5-star. Vandegrift was a 5-star. But it's been a couple years, and maybe some of those guys weren't actually 5-stars like they were billed to be coming out of high school. There's also that. But Jared Curtis is massive. And obviously he was once committed to Georgia. And there was something about when he decommitted from Georgia, it felt like he was clearly keeping the door open. And so, that's an encouraging sign. Interestingly enough, Steve Wiltfong has felt like Oregon had the lead going into this weekend at Georgia. And Curtis spent 3 full days at Georgia, which I think is just massive. Like he was really getting the full rundown of what it would be like to be a student athlete at Georgia, and I think that's massive. I think his mom is quoted like she does not envy the decision that Jared has to make. And I don't know how some of these guys make the decisions they're going to make. It was hard for me to make the decision of, do I go to Georgia Southern or do I go to Georgia College or North Georgia? Like that was a tough decision to be made when no one was actively trying to sway me one way or the other. So if being wined and dined by Oregon and by Georgia, I'm sure they both have a lot of awesome things going on, and it's almost impossible to make a decision like that. But I think in today's era of college football, it's so much of it is going to be about NIL and everything. And so I think a lot of Georgia fans, once they hear they're in kind of a sweepstakes, a bidding war, if you will, that immediately starts to, they start to get a little pessimistic about their chances of landing a recruit. Not that Georgia's not spending money on recruits, but just because it seems like when there's a highest bidder situation, those are kind of the only situations where Georgia misses out on recruits. Like, not that they get everyone that they want, but damn, Kirby gets a lot of the guys he wants. And so Jared Curtis, his relationship with Mike Bobo goes back a long way. That's talked about a lot. One thing is the guy's from Nashville, and going all the way to Oregon versus going to Athens, that's a huge difference in proximity to home. And so, a lot of these guys don't care as much these days about going across the country to go to college. So, maybe that doesn't matter, but maybe that's just in the back of their heads, back of Jared Curtis's head, that all things equal, one of these is literally across the country, and one of these is like 4 hours from my parents' house. That sort of thing might sway his decision. So I think he sounds like he's on commit watch. From what I hear, kind of reading the tea leaves, it doesn't sound like this one's going to go much longer. And personally, I think, and I don't know if that means a week or if that means a month, 2 months. Like, I don't actually know, but I think from what everyone has said, a decision is likely to be made before the season. It's almost guaranteed to be made before the season. You're seeing most guys, June and July is kind of the new period that everyone likes to commit. Get that over with before your senior year. But he feels like from what I hear, it's down to Oregon and Georgia. So he's made officials to both of those schools, and he's kind of weighing his options at this point. And I think as a quarterback also, I think there's a huge advantage to, just getting the hay in the barn, right? And just you're kind of the leader of the class. And if a 5-star quarterback, number one quarterback in the country, is now on the commit list of any school, that school becomes a lot more attractive to a lot more players. And so I think you kind of see that lots of times, the quarterbacks kind of being incentivized to commit early and start to, be that leader of the class. And so I would be willing to bet, and once again, this is just speculation, I would be willing to bet that this guy is committed somewhere, by the end of April. I think he seems like one that like all the information that he could gather has been gathered, and now it's just a matter of making a decision. And I personally think the sooner a decision is made, the better I feel for Georgia. And once again, that's speculation, just a vibes thing, but it feels like kind of what I alluded to earlier. Kind of the longer it goes, maybe the NIL package is getting sweetened a little more. Maybe you found a condo for the parents. Maybe you did whatever it takes to land a recruit. Whereas if it's all about business and he just wants to get committed and start building the class, it feels like that feels better from the tea leaves perspective of Georgia's chances. So Jared Curtis, biggest recruit in this 2025 class, or 2026 class, I should say, that we're definitely watching for a commitment for. The other guys, part of this recruiting weekend, Jackson Cantwell is another one too, number one offensive lineman in the country. Like Drew Rosenhaus apparently is this guy's agent, like the Drew Rosenhaus. So, I'm not crossing my fingers that Georgia's going to be able to pull number one offensive lineman in the country out of Missouri. That's going to have a kind of a bidding war, probably David Sanders situation. Because I mean, believe what you want. That's the one thing that sucks about this whole NIL thing is so much of it's hearsay. We don't know. Oh, this guy's NIL evaluation is X amount of money, but we don't know that anyone's actually paying him that amount of money. So you never know with these situations, but according to Rusty Mansell's one of the most plugged in people in the business, David Sanders was 100% like, Georgia was on his short list, but the money was nowhere close to what David Sanders thought he was worth. And Georgia kind of quickly, fell out of that top group. So, that remains to be seen, but that's kind of what I mean. And so for Georgia to be this close with a guy like Jared Curtis, you got to feel encouraged with a big time 5-star like that. And then keeping it moving with other guys that were visiting this weekend. Rodney Dunham, a 5-star edge rusher out of North Carolina, apparently came away kind of blown away by Georgia on this visit, just with everything he saw with Athens, with how this team practices. Number one player out of the state of North Carolina. So to get him on campus, that's a big one. You've seen how Georgia recruits the defensive side of the ball. Man, it is a pretty absurd that each year you got like 4 or 5-5-stars, and they all seem to be 5-star linebacker, 5-star edge, 5-star D lineman. That's just what Georgia does. 5-star corners, 5-star safeties. It's usually on that side of the ball. Elias Williams is kind of the I think the first offensive 5-star they've signed in a couple classes. And Taylor, I think, became a 5-star at the end of this class as well. So they brought in a couple on offense this year. But yeah, Rodney Dunham, edge rusher out of North Carolina. You've seen Tennessee have a lot of success in North Carolina in recent years, and Georgia's obviously had plenty of success. Todd Gurley, Zamir White, Jordan Davis. So Georgia's had their fair share of success. Keith Marshall, getting guys out of the state of North Carolina. And, I like Georgia's chances with Rodney Dunham, big-time edge rusher. And another guy, Nick Abrams, 4-star linebacker out of Maryland, was also on this Georgia recruiting visit this weekend. So, apparently he has a July commitment date already set. So I don't know if that's like his birthday or something like that, but I saw it listed when I looked at his profile on 24/7. So we're on 3, one of the two. But yeah, so Nick Abrams is another big time 4-star linebacker that was visiting this weekend. And then Shadarius Tootle, an 4-star linebacker, Auburn commit, was actually visiting as well. So we'll see if George is able to sway him. But that's another name to look out for on the recruiting trail. So, and then in terms of the ultimate prize in the recruiting game is getting commits. The buzz and reading the tea leaves is nice and everything, but Brady Marchese, the wide receiver out of Cartersville, 3-star, who knows what to think. I've told you before, when a 3-star commits to Georgia, especially a guy committing this early, I tend to trust Kirby Smart. If this guy's good enough to get an offer from Georgia, and he feels that, solid, that he can compete at that level, then I automatically think he's a little bit better than a 3-star. So maybe that's my bias. I'm surely not. Surely that's back only facts, no feelings. But yeah, so Georgia I think he's the seventh commit in Georgia's class so far. I actually don't have Georgia's 2026. Let me get this 2026 commit list up here. So yeah, that's Georgia's sixth commit of the 2026 class. So another 3-star, third 3-star recruit in this class. But Cartersville's been a powerhouse in the state of Georgia for several years now. So getting a guy from a program like that, never a bad thing.